All right, good morning, guys. Today we are going to read from the third chapter in You Are The Placebo by Dr. Joseph Dispenza. And I will give commentary as I go along. And changing our state of being begins with changing our thoughts. Because of the size of our enormous forebrain, the privilege of being a human being is that we can make thought more real than anything else. And that's how the placebo works. To see how the process unfolds, it's vital to examine and review three key elements: conditioning, expectation, and meaning. As you'll see, these three concepts all seem to work together in orchestrating the placebo response. I explained conditioning, the first element, in the discussion about Pavlov in the previous chapter. To recap, conditioning happens when we associate a past memory, for example, taking an aspirin, with a physiological change, getting rid of a headache, because we've experienced the benefits of the drug so many times. Think about it like this. If you notice that you have a headache, essentially you become aware of a physiological change in your inner environment. You are feeling pain. The next thing you automatically do is look for something in your outer world, in this case an aspirin, to create a change in your inner world. We could say it was your internal state, being in pain, that prompted you to think about some past choice you made, action you took, or experience you had in your external reality that changed how you were feeling, taking an aspirin and getting relief. And this goes back to how we create the habit of food being, if we're in pain, if something's going on, if we're upset, if we're sad, we eat. It takes our mind off of those things. So you can see how we condition ourselves. Like, that's why the food habit is so hard to break, because it's our anchor point in our enslavement. Because that is the one thing. First of all, it's legal. Second of all, it's pervasive through everything. Thirdly, it's been something that we've used almost like a pacifier to pacify ourselves since we were little. Fourth, it's all of our peers have pushed it, and it's socially, culturally acceptable that food is just the antidote to everything. It's the answer to everything. If you're in pain, if you want to socialize, if you are having troubles, if you're upset, if you're emotional, we eat. So you can see, like, we've conditioned ourselves to be highly addicted to food. Thus, the stimulus or cue from the outer environment, called the aspirin, creates a specific experience. When that experience produces a physiological response or reward, it changes your internal environment. So we eat and it makes us feel good. We're like, ooh, and then all our problems go away, and they don't go away. And that's the thing, they don't go away. They just keep getting stacked up on our back. They're behind us, but they're still on us. The moment you notice a change in your inner environment, you pay attention to what it was in your outer environment that caused the change. That event where something outside of you changes something inside of you is called an associative memory. And then so it becomes an associative memory. We automatically know, well, every time I'm not feeling good, every time I got a problem, every time I want to distract myself, I eat and I feel better. So then it gets into our subconscious. And then that's where we end up finding, as we get older, we just snack all day long snacking, because it's just constantly keeping us going to take our mind off. And we're never aware, we're never present, we're living in the subconscious, we're living on autopilot. If we keep repeating the process over and over again, by association, the outer stimulus can become so strong or reinforced that we can replace the aspirin for a sugar pill that looks like an aspirin, and it will produce an automatic inner response, lessening the pain of the headache. That's one way the placebo works. Expectation, the second element, comes into play when we have reason to anticipate a different outcome. If conditioning is based on the past, then think of expectation as being based on the future. So, for example, if we have chronic pain from arthritis and get a new medication from the doctor who enthusiastically explains to us that it's supposed to alleviate our pain, we accept his suggestion and expect that when we take this new medication, something different will happen. We won't be in pain anymore. Then, in effect, our doctor has influenced our level of suggestibility. Now, this is where advertising comes in, because your advertising, your subconscious, even though you're not paying attention to the advertising, your subconscious is picking up on it. And what is this advertising telling you? If it's fast food, they're telling you, oh, this will make you feel better. Oh, this is great. Oh, this will make you feel good. So, for clothing advertising the same way. Oh, this will make you, you'll stand out. And so they know how to put all these visuals, all these visual and audio cues where it gets into our subconscious, and what they're doing is they're conditioning us with expectation, right? The expectation that if I put this on my body, I'll be more attractive, I'll look more pretty. If I spray this spritz, then it's going to create pheromones and the opposite sex is going to be attracted to me. If I eat this, it's going to make me feel better, right? So these are all things that how our mind works and how our suggestibility works that we have to be mindful and aware of, because we are being controlled. If we're not mindful and aware and living in the present and presently available in our minds, then we are just on autopilot, and all of these things outside of us are constantly pulling our attention. Again, our one valuable currency that we have in this world is our attention, the only thing worth anything in this world. And if we don't have our attention on ourselves and what's going through our head and our actions and why we're doing things, then we're just automatons. We're brain dead zombies. We're mindless minions. Once we become more suggestible, we're naturally associating something outside of ourselves, the new medication, with the selection of a different possibility, being pain-free. In our minds, we are picking a different future potential and hoping, anticipating, and expecting that we'll get that different result. If we emotionally accept and then embrace that new outcome we've selected, and the intensity of our emotion is great enough, our brains and our bodies won't know the difference between imagining that we've changed our state of being to being pain-free, and the actual event that caused the change to a new state of being. To the brain and the body, they are the same. So our mind is extremely powerful, guys. This is a mental existence that we're living. And if your mind is being controlled by something outside of you, you're like, well, what's the problem with that? We just got to live in society, and that's how we get along. We all have to work together, and we have to feed the beast, and this is how the system works. No, because the system's not always going to be there for you. The system is there for you because you are a convenient consumer of its bullshit. As soon as you break free or you have some life-changing event and you're no longer able to participate and keep up with the system's going to crush you and shit you out the rear end and forget about you. So that's why it's so important for us to reclaim our authority and be in charge of ourselves and make our decisions for ourselves and be mindful and aware of that our thoughts, our words, and our actions are aligning in the behaviors and emotions are what we want to have and not what's being forced on us from outside or from the snake or the entity in our systems. Consequently, the brain fires the same neural circuits as it would if our state had changed. If the drug worked to relieve the pain, while it releases similar chemicals into the body, what we're expecting to be pain-free then actually happens, because the brain and the body create the perfect pharmacy to alter our internal condition. We are now in a new state of being. That is, the mind and body are working as one. We're that powerful. And again, the inner pharmacy, we are through our mind and backing our mind up with our emotions and our beliefs, our knowledge, our thought systems, we can trigger the pharmacy in our brain whether that's pain medication, whether that's whatever. I mean, we hold DMT, tripping molecules, everything in our body. Our body is its own pharmacy. And so we don't need anything outside of ourselves. And that's what we need to do. We need to get off the system. Right now, we are plugged into the system. We need to unplug, but people are afraid to unplug from the system because they're like, well, how am I going to live without my medication? How am I going to live without my pills? How am I going to live without all that processed junk? How am I going to live without all the entertainment? How am I going to live without all the distraction? How am I going to live without my job? How am I going to live? And you don't understand. We have everything. We were born with everything that we need. The biggest lie we've been sold is that we need everything outside of ourselves. We don't need anything outside of ourselves, and this is the proof. Assigning meaning, the third element, to a placebo helps it work, because when we give an action a new meaning, then we have added intention behind it. In other words, when we learn and understand something new, we put more of our conscious, purposeful energy into it. So, for example, in the study about the hotel maids from the previous chapter, once the maids understood how much physical exercise they were doing every day just by performing their jobs, as well as the benefits of that exercise, they assigned more meaning to those actions. And you remember, they lost weight, their blood pressure was better, all these indicators were better, and nothing changed. They were doing the same thing every day. It's just they had been educated that they were actually exercising and that it was good for their bodies. And just because they had the new meaning in their mind of, they weren't just going to work and slaving away and, this is what we do. And now they had that meaning behind it. And so they played that trick in their mind. And now that they had that meaning, that purpose behind what they were doing, it made what they were doing so much more powerful that it actually resulted in a physiological difference. It actually was provable that the new concept they had in their mind, that what they were doing had a purpose, a grander purpose. It showed physically by them losing weight, by their indicators of their physiological existence, going up. They weren't just vacuuming, scrubbing, and mopping. They realized they were working their muscles, increasing their strength, and burning calories. Because the vacuuming, scrubbing, and mopping had more meaning after the researchers educated them about the physical advantages of exercise, the maids' intention or aim as they worked wasn't just to complete their task. It was also to get physical exercise and become healthier. And if you want that full story, guys, it's in when I did the reading from this book on chapter 2 in the previous video. So you can check that out if you want those full stories. And that's exactly what happened. The members of the control group didn't assign the same meaning to their task because they didn't know that what they were doing was beneficial to their health. So they also didn't receive the same benefits, even though they were performing exactly the same actions. And if you remember from the story from the previous chapter, they took 40 maids and they explained to them that they were getting exercise and how it was benefiting them, by their job and doing what they were doing. And then they took the other 40, they didn't say anything to them. And they ran all these tests. And after a month, the control group, which is the group that they didn't say anything to about the benefits of what they were doing, but they were testing all these indicators, had no changes in difference. The other group, the other 40 maids in the other hotel, had all of these differences, major differences. So again, if you want to know that full story of that study, you can listen to the other video from the other chapter. The placebo works the same way. The more you believe that a particular substance, procedure, or surgery will work because you've been educated about its benefits, the better your chances of responding to the thought of improving your health and getting better. Now, this all ties in with, on the other channel I've uploaded today, me and Brandon did videos on the NAMA juicer and the juicing. And I explained while we we're in one of the videos, we explained, how this was a process like, we didn't just go, oh, I'm going to get a juicer, it's going to solve all my problems. We've been doing on this healing journey for 4 or 5 years now. And it has just now, become the top priority was for us to now switch over to juicing as the next step in our journey, our personal journey. So we have had plenty of time, years even, to prepare and know that what we're doing is beneficial, why it's beneficial, how it's benefiting us, what the process is, how it's working in the body. So it's an alignment of all these things for this to be a powerful healing process for us at this point in time in our journeys. Whereas, if we just went out and and bought a juicer and we're like juicing and just like, and not know why and how and the exact process, we wouldn't have all that meaning behind it. So that's important. If you're going to spend money and you're going to invest money and time into a healing modality, you need to give it all the power that it needs in order to work properly. You can't just go into it, oh, well, I'm going to try this. It probably doesn't work and da-da-da-da-da. And, you will see benefits, but you're not going to see true change. You're not going to envelop true change until you align your thoughts, words, and actions. So in other words, if you place more meaning behind a possible experience with a person, place, or thing in your external environment in order to change your internal environment, then you're more likely to be successful at intentionally changing your inner state by thought alone. In addition, the more you can accept a new outcome related to your health because you've been educated about the possible rewards of what you're doing, the clearer the model you're creating in your own mind. And so the better you'll be at priming your brain and your body to replicate exactly that. Again, remember, priming, you're preparing yourself. Priming, you're preparing yourself. You're putting in what you want to get out. Simply said, the more you believe in the cause, the better the effect. That's it.